My name is George Falconer, and as you can see, this is Peniel. I'm going to read Genesis chapter 6. The background is that Noah had his family when he was 500 years old. Bear that in mind. When men began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, My spirit will not contend with man forever, for he is mortal. His days will be 120 years. Remember, I said Noah was 500 years old when he had his sons. God is cutting down the length of time man can live to 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days. I don't know who the Nephilim were, but the readers of this must have realised who they were, the early readers. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children by them. They were the heroes of old men of renown. So, folklore, the sons of God, I don't know who they were. Maybe it was just simply God's creation, maybe it was us, but it doesn't make that clear, and the early readers of this must have understood it in the midst of time that has been lost. The Lord saw how great man's wickedness on the earth had become, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil all the time. The Lord was grieved that he had made man on the earth, and his heart was filled with pain. So the Lord said, I will wipe mankind whom I have created off the face of the earth, men and animals and creatures that move along the ground, and the birds of the air, for I am grieved that I have made them. But Noah found favour in the eyes of the Lord. This is the account of Noah. So Noah had found favour in God's eyes, because, as we see here in this next verse, Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham and Japheth, and as I say, he had them when he was 500 years old, and Noah was counted as righteous because he sought to honour the Lord. Now remember, like everyone else, Noah would have inherited the sinful disposition that comes from Adam, but he recognised it as sin and decided he would walk with the Lord. He would live a life that sought to honour God. And the pressure from the society around him must have been tremendous. Noah, why are you so different to us? Why can't you just be like the rest of us and do what you like? God doesn't care. He lets us get away with it after all. It's not sin, is it? God must be pleased with us. He lets us live for so long. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I am going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence. Because of them, I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood, make rooms in it, and coat it with pitch, inside and out. This is how you are to build it. The ark is to be 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Make a roof for it, and finish the ark to within 18 inches of the top. Put a door in the side of the ark, and make lower and middle and upper decks. I am going to bring flood waters on the earth to destroy it. All life under the heavens, every creature that has breath of life in, everything on the earth will perish. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons, and your wife and your sons' wives with you. You are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, every kind of animal, and every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you. It will be kept alive. You are to take every kind of food that is to be eaten and store it away as food for you and for them. Noah did everything just as God commanded him. So there's a covenant. Noah did everything as God commanded, and God brought the creatures to Noah to enter the ark. Noah didn't have to go out and find them and capture them. So the creatures coming to the ark is a miracle in itself. And Noah had found favour with God because he sought to please God. Noah had faith, but his faith was accompanied by works. Noah had consistently did good deeds that were favoured by God long before he ever built the ark. We know him today because of the ark, because if Noah hadn't lived in obedience to God, we wouldn't exist. But God saved Noah. But God cut the lifespan of people because they were wicked. They lived for a long time and spread their wickedness. Every thought they had corrupted their heart, and they did wicked things. And can you imagine if you're living for hundreds of years or even thousands of years, carrying out your wickedness, having more and more families who again carry out more and more wickedness? The earth is full of evil, even more full of evil than it is now. Can you imagine that, eh? I can't begin to even grasp that. And God was grieved, because God is holy and just. But rather than destroy all of man, he cut the length of time they could live, and Noah's family would be saved. Because of wickedness, the length of time man could live was cut. Now here is a portion of Psalm 90. And this is a prayer of Moses. Moses comes long after Noah, so bear that in mind. Remember, in Noah's day, God has cut the length of time men can live to 120 years. Now this psalm says this: Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the earth and the world from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You turn men back to dust, saying, return to dust, O Son of Man. So he's talking about death, how it's inevitable that we will die. It's because of our sin that we die. We inherited that from Adam. For 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by. God is not restricted by time, is what that verse is saying. Or like a watch in the night, you sweep men away in the sleep of death. They are like the new grass of the morning. So we're just swept away. Our lives are short. Though the morning and it springs up new, by evening it is dry and withered. So you know how the morning springs up new, but by evening it's gone. One day, very short. And that's how our lives are to God. We are consumed by your anger and terrified by your indignation. God is angry with us if we continue in our sin, is what Moses is saying. It says, you have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. Our secret sins are things that are hidden from other men, or even hidden inside our hearts. Just thoughts, wicked thoughts, is sin in itself. God judges our thoughts, not just our actions. All our days pass away under your wrath. We finish our years with a moan. That sounds terrible. Some people have terrible deaths. That's what it's saying, I suppose. The length of our days is 70 years, or 80 if we have strength. Yet their span is but trouble and sorrow, for they quickly pass, and we fly away. Who knows the power of your anger? For your wrath is as great as the fear that is due. So there you have it. In Moses' day, life was even shorter to what it is now. Moses is saying, we live 70 years, 80 if we have strength. Moses himself, of course, had a good innings of 120 years, but it seems that God had cut it even more because of our sin. And I have been reviewing life. You know, our life is 70, or if we have strength, maybe 80. We have got to use our lives wisely and use the time God gives us wisely in His service. And it's good to review it. It's good to review it at any time of life. But I find that as I get older, I review it even more and intensely, wondering what length of time do I have left? And here is the big question. How can I use it to best serve God? Not how best can I entertain myself and have a vain hope that I'll enter heaven. But how can I use the time God has given me wisely so that I'm living according to His will and pleasing Him? Whatever time you have, dear viewer, if you're a young person, don't take it for granted that you have a long time, because you could suddenly have a disease or a heart attack, or you could be crossing the road and it might all suddenly come to an end. And if you're old, well, you know that you're approaching the end. That's a certainty. How are you going to please God? How are you going to use the time you have now? You don't know how long it's going to be. You just know that you've got time right now. How are you going to use it? I'll leave you with that thought.